Hello. If you're like me and you're growing vegetables at home, you'll know that there's only a finite number of places where you can stand your buckets and bags. Once the garden becomes full, it's full. I've got 3 raised beds that are full of vegetables now. I've got buckets and bags dotted all over the place. And I've got flowers in the border. But I reserved this corner of the garden for my strawberry plants. And I've done that for a couple of reasons. Firstly, because it's a sheltered corner, and secondly, because it gets at least half a day's full sunshine. That's provided the sun shines, and there's nowhere in the garden probably gets any more than that because of trees and because of buildings. I don't get a full day's sun anywhere in the garden. So this looked as good a place as any. But there are a couple of negatives to this corner. As you know, birds are attracted to strawberry plants. You also know that birds are attracted to fences, and that fence in this shot is a magnet to birds. And so are the raised beds that are at this end of the garden, which have brassicas in there, and lettuce in there, and beetroot in there, and the birds just love to peck the leaves. Now I've got those netted as best I can, and it is a bit of a Heath Robinson, but they are netted. I have made the effort. So if I grow strawberries in this corner, I would need to net this corner. And that's something really I'm not wanting to do, because I want the garden to look reasonably tidy. I don't want one end of it to be covered in nets, which is what it would be. And with the birds being attracted to that fence, and attracted to my raised bed, and attracted to the bird feeder we have, which is at this end of the garden, this perhaps isn't the best location for those strawberries. I think the birds will get more than I would get. And you could say, well, move the bird feeder to the other end of the garden. Well, at the other end of the garden is the rotary washing line. And so we're trying to fit things in as best we can. And I was going to fit those strawberry plants in to this corner, but I've decided against it. I've moved them, and I'm going to take you to the location I moved them to earlier and let you have a look at that. But the strawberries' loss is the courgette's gain. This is part of my what's best buckets or bags experiment, and I've got a courgette plant growing in a bucket, a courgette plant growing in a bag. I'll record the number of courgettes that come off each through the growing year. That's provided they grow on and produce courgettes, and then we'll maybe make a judgment as to which is best for growing courgettes in. Is it buckets? Is it bags? Anyway, let's go to the other end of the garden and let's have a look at the number 2 location for these strawberries. I was going to put the strawberries here next to this fence, but this fence would put the strawberries in shade most of the day. and I didn't want that. I was hoping they would catch some sunshine, but this fence is even taller than the one in the previous shot. This fence doesn't attract birds, but it blocks the sunshine out. And I just felt that now I want the strawberries to get some sunshine on them. The flowers are just starting to appear now, and I'd like the flying insects to have access to those flowers. So I brought the buckets round here and I stood them here, and they just didn't look right. They just didn't look happy at all. So I've moved the buckets to their final resting place, at least. I hope this is their final resting place. Let's go and have a look at that. I've moved the strawberries into the greenhouse. Now it's only an 8x6, and as you can see I've already got the tomato plants growing in buckets and bags down both sides of the greenhouse, and a couple of cucumbers growing at the far end that look quite anemic. I'm not too sure what's happening there. And I've moved the buckets with the strawberries into the greenhouse, and I'm going to try and grow them on in the greenhouse. Now the door's always open, so insects will be able to get in there, the pollinators will be able to get in there. I should be able to get easy access to them, to prune the runners out, take any dead leaves that I want to take, and also any strawberries that these plants deliver. And although it looks a bit overcrowded now, I'm working along the lines of these tomato plants will eventually be 4 or 5 foot tall, so they will be fruiting well above the level of the strawberries, which will be fruiting about a foot from ground level. Bear in mind they're in these 10-inch tall water buckets. So I'm hoping there is some separation there. I'm hoping there's some ventilation there, and I'll do the watering. I'll try my best to make sure these things don't dry out, and we'll see what we get. And if you remember, I think I may have a collection of strawberries on my hands. Didn't I get those 10 strawberries? 7 of them were decapitated in the post. 3 of them I managed to grow on, and I complained. They sent me another 10. I intercepted those before they came through the letterbox, and I got those to grow on. So now I've got 10 strawberry plants from the second delivery, 3 from the first delivery. The foliage looks different, it looks a different colour. I'm suspecting I might have 2 varieties, so I'm calling that a collection. And as the growing season goes on, we maybe find that to be true or not to be true, because there's early season strawberries, mid-season strawberries and late strawberries, and I may have some of both, but I may not. I won't know that until we get some fruit. But I've got to tell you, there's lots of flower buds starting now on these strawberries. There's none open yet, but give it a week or 2 and there will be. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you grow strawberries, if you grow them in containers, if you grow them in a greenhouse particularly, or a polytunnel, let me know what you think about this idea of trying to grow strawberries and tomatoes this close together in a greenhouse. Do you think it'll work, or do you think I'm giving myself some issues here? I mean, I had the issues in the garden, didn't I? Areas of the garden that don't get sun, areas of the garden that attract birds. I would have needed a frame, I would have needed netting. So I've avoided all that by moving these in here, but I may have created another issue. I don't know. Okay, so I hope you've enjoyed this video. Get in touch, let me know if you're growing strawberries in greenhouses or polytunnels, and yeah, if you've any advice, gratefully accepted. This is Homegrown Veg, signing out.